This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Welcome back to Wanna Smash, where we're bringing you another Persona 4 Arena Ultimax guide. In the previous video, we discussed basic controls and commands, and briefly covered numpad notation. This video will build upon these things, so if this is the first one you've watched, we highly recommend you hold your place here and go watch the rest. All caught up to speed? Great, let's get to it. The most prominently featured, and most important gauge, is the health bar, or HP gauge. This gauge shows your remaining health as a percentage of your max health, as HP is set per character and varies among the roster. HP is functionally equivalent to character weight in platform fighters, similarly dictating how long a given character can survive. The bar will change color to indicate how the match is going for you. Light blue at 100% remaining, green at 99% to 36%, and yellow at 35% or less when normal type characters enter Awakening. Additionally, sections of health that are recoverable will be a slightly darker blue. If damage is taken while these sections exist, they will disappear and no longer be recoverable. Recoverable damage is dealt to yourself when you perform a furious action, super cancel, or take what's called chip damage. Chip damage is taken by blocking special moves and supers, but you cannot die this way, so stay calm.
Behind you! Blast off! Behind you!
While not directly related to the health bar, recovering out of untrue combos can help you keep more of it intact. While in a combo, it is generally advised to hold an attack button in a direction, so you can escape in that direction when the combo ends or, as previously mentioned, becomes untrue. You'll know when you could have escaped a string this way if the combo counter turns yellow. If the opponent ends their combo with an attack that knocks you down, however, you'll not be able to influence your recovery direction.
You're not coming?
Keep in mind that some opponents may look for an immediate air recovery and continue to pressure you after your invincibility ends. So vary your recovery timing if you notice this happening.
And stay down!
While not exactly a system per se, a timer is implemented to help dictate the pace of the game and possibly guide in-the-moment decision-making. The timer lasts 99 seconds by default, but it can be set from 30 to 99 in increments of 15, or no time limit at all, but most people play with the 99-second default, so it's better left alone. If you've ever played a fighting game before, you may have already figured out that when the timer reaches 0, the player with more HP remaining wins the round. This measures how much HP you actually have, so recoverable health does not count towards this total. At this point, you should know how to move and how to attack, but there are, in fact, more moves at your character's disposal than the 4 basic attacks. I'm of course talking about special moves, performed by inputting a particular motion followed immediately by an attack button. Hopefully you're familiar with the numpad notation we covered earlier, because these inputs are where it's most commonly used. If a single direction corresponds to a number on the keypad, what do you think multiple numbers in a row means? Well, what was I just talking about? Motion inputs. The kinds you'll need to know are the quarter circle forward, quarter circle back, and charge inputs for some characters. This means that to perform a charge move, you must charge a directional input by holding it for about a second, and then press the opposite direction to complete the motion. The 2 quarter circle inputs are simple enough to follow along the numeric keypad. Inputting 2, 3, 6 is a quarter circle forward, and 2, 1, 4 is a quarter circle back, keeping in mind that numpad always assumes you're facing right. Charge moves are notated with the direction to be charged in brackets, followed by the opposite direction. To perform Kanji's Primal Force move, for example, hold back, and then press forward and a Persona button. Charge moves aren't too strict on the direction being held, so long as the required direction is being held. Using Mitsuru, who has multiple charge moves as another example, holding down back charges both down and back, so you can choose which move to use by pressing forward or up and the required attack button. One more move that is technically a special move is the Furious action performed by pressing B and D. This move will deal 5% of your character's max HP to yourself as recoverable damage, save for Adachi who receives 10%. Opposite the health bar lies what is commonly referred to in most games as the super meter. This game, in reference to its source material, calls this gauge the SP gauge, after the SP or skill points used in the Persona RPG series to perform skills. At the start of every round, this gauge will be empty and its maximum capacity set to 100 SP. During the round, you can fill it by connecting attacks on your opponent and blocking their attacks. While blocking attacks gains you a minuscule amount of SP, instant blocking will net you significantly more. There are 4 meter milestones to keep in mind in regards to its progress: 25, 50, 75, and 100 SP. With 25 SP, you can input a special move with both of its buttons to enhance it, which is called a skill boosted, or SB, special move. For example, Narukami's Raging Lion can be performed with 214A or 214B. If you instead input the move with both A and B, the SB version will come out, subtracting 25 SP. For moves that use the Persona buttons, both must be pressed to use the SB version of said move. In short, press both of the same type of button to skill boost. As you may have noticed, skill boosting a special move will cause your character to flash blue during the startup of the move, letting both players know that this has occurred. When you've obtained 50 SP, you can unleash a high damage super move. Super moves in this game are input with a double quarter circle motion, either forward or backward. In our lovely numpad notation, these are 236, 236, and 214, 214 respectively. Being the astute viewer you are, you may recognize that these are simply the special move motions repeated twice, and you'd be correct. Additionally, for 75 SP, you can use a skill-boosted super move. Think of it as the 50 required to use the super and 25 to skill boost. As you may have guessed, using an SB super also requires you to input the move with both buttons of the same type, in an identical fashion to SB special moves mentioned previously. A rule of thumb for super moves in general: non-awakening supers use the double forward motion, while your character's awakening exclusive super moves will use the double backwards motion. We'll brush past the 100 SP mark for now. So what exactly is this awakening state we've been ever so casually mentioning? When your normal type character's remaining HP reaches 35% or less, the gauge will become yellow and the fancy graphic of your character will fill the screen for a moment. The awakened state grants your character significantly more defense, increases SP capacity to 150, and allows the use of awakening-only super moves. Additionally, at the moment of activation, you will be granted 50 SP to potentially help you reverse the flow of the match. These benefits won't take effect until you have control of your character, so it's entirely possible for your opponent to combo you to death before you enter Awakening.
It's showtime! Alright, let's do this! Woo! Sorry, guys.
If you have a burst available at this point, it'd be wise to use it before that happens. So what is a burst and how do you use it? Bursts as a mechanic, while not unique to this game, do have more uses than their typical association with being a defensive resource. The burst gauge, located beside your character portrait, actually has a few different uses depending on the situation. Something to note before we discuss the types of bursts is that, no matter what, bursts themselves do 0 damage. With that out of the way, let's cover what kinds of bursts there are. First, while blocking or being hit, you can use a defensive burst to get your opponent off of you. That's right, you can use your burst to escape combos. There are a few things to keep in mind when using a defensive burst. The burst gauge will be completely emptied and slowly recharge over time. The burst gauge carries over between rounds. And you cannot burst out of throws or supers.
Alright, let's do this! Woo!
You should also pay attention to when you use a defensive burst, as it's rather common to see bursts get baited during combos. If the opponent baits your burst, you will likely see their most damaging combo. Don't let them get in your head. You can instead predict their burst habits. You could be the one dishing out the pain.
You're not coming?
Next up is the Max Burst, more commonly known as a Gold Burst due to its gold hitbox. This is performed by inputting the burst command while not getting hit or blocking. If this connects with your opponent, your SP gauge is instantly filled completely. Whether or not this risky maneuver actually succeeds, the burst gauge will only drain by 60%. Finally, while attacking your opponent, you can use what's called a One More Burst, or OMB, shooting them into the air, allowing you to follow up for even more damaging combos.
Crap! Now I'm pissed!
Much like the defensive burst covered previously, this will completely drain your burst gauge when you use it.
Getting started.
Because the instant kill mechanic doesn't see too much serious use, we glossed over it earlier when discussing the SP gauge. Unlike other mechanics we've covered, the instant kill, or IK, has a few requirements that need to be met in order to attempt it. Winning the current round must win you the game, you must have access to your persona, and you must have at least 100 SP.
Hey! Ow!
When these conditions are met, your character portrait at the top of the screen will pulse white. Finally, inputting down, 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 C and D will execute the move.
Let's end this.
Be very careful when using an IK. While they may have hefty invincibility at the start, they are very telegraphed and have lots of recovery, meaning that their misuse will result in you eating a big punish. An example of a situation where an IK may prove useful is punishing laggy moves, like Adachi's C Atom Smasher.
My face! Let's end this.
If you find yourself in a situation like this where it'll connect, or if you think it'll be really funny, go for it. As its name suggests, hitting your opponent with it will instantly earn you a victory. As a quick side note, the character Shadow Labras performs her IK with down, 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 A and B, instead of everyone else's down, 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 C and D. It's also worth noting that the personalist Sho Minazuki and Shadow-type characters cannot use this technique. Hang in there, as there's one more gauge to cover, that being the Persona gauge represented by the P cards underneath your health bar. The one actual Personalist character, Sho Minazuki, does not have this gauge at all. For the rest of the cast, pay attention. The amount of cards varies for each character, ranging from 2 to 8, and represents how many hits their respective persona can take. While your character's persona is on screen, having an attack collide with you or the persona will cause you to lose one card. Lose them all, and you will be in a state called Persona Break.
Not enough.
While Persona Broken, you cannot use any moves that call your persona, you cannot use a burst of any kind, and you cannot use an instant kill move. Don't worry too much, as the P cards regenerate over time in relation to how many cards your character has, allowing you to recover from this state. For example, a 2-card character like Akihiko will regenerate his cards faster than a 6-card character like Elizabeth. Try to catch your opponent throwing out their persona recklessly and break it. Many characters lose access to serious damage without a persona available. Thanks for making it this far. Did what we say make sense? If not, rewatch any troublesome chapters until you've got it down. Still not clear? Comment below. We take the time to read all our comments. It doesn't take long. So don't hesitate to ask. If you want to watch ahead, a link to the whole series will be in the description. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next upload. Blah blah blah, call to action, watch the next one.